Everybody, this is Perch, comic book costs. That's one of the weirder, I don't know, not frustrating things, I guess, for me about comics is that every now and then inflation comes up, and then somebody, often it's Big Two, sometimes some of the surrogates and the news, NEWZ media for comics, will come out and say, well, actually, comics have hung in with inflation just fine. It's not abnormal. Things are just fine. But it doesn't, that's actually factually not true. There are a number of calculators out there. You can benchmark it against history. It's because we're not forecasting into the future. We actually have, history that tell us exactly what happens. And so I find it's always amazing to me when people really argue about comic costs, and it's like, no, they're perfectly reasonable. It's like they're not at all. But anyway, this mail addresses it. Let's talk through that here for a second. It says Perch, very 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 formal. Perch. So in your recent three big problems with comics video, cost comes up a lot. I was curious whether comics were really that expensive now when adjusted for inflation. So I went to usinflationcalculator.com, there's lots of them, and entered 12 cents for 1962 for when Amazing Fantasy number 15 came out. I also entered 75 cents for 1985 for when Crisis on Infinite Earths came out. In today's dollars, that adjusts to a 125 and 219 respectively. So comic prices are certainly going up faster than inflation, both now and from the 80s, when that Crisis book should have cost 43 cents. The question then is why? Real quick before we get into the rest of this, the Crisis on Infinite Earths book in 85 for $1.25, that wasn't the medium for comics, I think, during that time period. I believe we're still in kind of the 75-cent era by and large. Crisis was, of course, a bigger book, as an event book. There are a couple other, pieces going on there in terms of the comics. So, I mean, I think there definitely was a bigger spike from 12 cents to 43 cents versus $1.25. The benchmark probably was 75 cents actually for that time period, which is still higher than 43 cents. But there were other factors in terms of, paper costs and other things were happening. So when you're looking at inflation, you need to look for like-to-like products. And so the way you do that is, there's just general inflation for consumer goods, but then you look for, what we would call consumables, whether it's food or whether it's printed products or things like that. And it can give you some other benchmarks, because during the range from like 60s to 80s, you had major things going on with printing, and you had different volume of scale. So you had other business fundamentals that were going to drive the price up beyond inflation, but they were understood and known. Now, everything I just said, by the way, you cannot apply that logic to today, because the prices today do not have those things, unless you want to make the argument that, comic books are less popular, and therefore, printed things are more expensive as a whole. Except that doesn't work when you compare them against, magazines or manga or graphic novels or other things being mass produced and sold in stores, and you find that the price is very normalized. Sorry, that's a lot of, economical bullshit there. So you could dig into this kind of stuff, but if you're truly wanting to make a case, there's a bunch of different elements that you want to put into. The point that this person who wrote the mail in is absolutely correct, though, the overall point. So now we get into the rest. It says, the question then is why? For listening to you and others, I'm skeptical that page rates are going up much faster than inflation. They are definitely not. They're the opposite, actually. Have paper and printing costs gone up faster? Not really. Not in the last, several years. In fact, definitely in the last decade, there's been a lot of efficiencies of scale of printing and drop shipping and other things that have gone on that make that more economical, not less. You wouldn't be able to see a major publisher churning out, kind of massive quantities of books like Marvel, being able to, you wouldn't see crowdfunders, for example, printing up their, a 1,000 comic run and being anywhere close to the same pricing of printing. But you do have that because of these efficiencies of scale that have been produced. Anyway, I know paper quality is higher now, but I've also been told it's a modest impact on the cost. That is correct. sometimes people write in saying, hey, comics need to just go back to newsprint and that would drop the cost in half. Actually, no, they wouldn't. Comics, and I know, I don't know if he's still doing it. Is Alterna still, Peter Samedi still doing his thing with newsprint? Has he moved away? I honestly don't know. But what you see is, the cost is not that much lower. It's a little, it's very modest, that price difference. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of kind of, basically more expensive papers got cheaper. Cheaper paper is in less demand. You can't find it as easily. So, I mean, it's just, there's problems with it. And in a lot of cases, people point to, you can print overseas, which you can certainly do, but then you've got shipping costs, you got delays, and you got other issues with the supply chain to worry about. And if you're putting out a monthly comic, it's not that, you need to be, you want to be more precise with your timing. And so there's a lot of factors there, but certainly not for the math. It says, back to the mail, it says, my guess is that it's a combination of higher overhead and lower sales that have driven up the price. But that's just a guess. If Marvel could double or triple their sales, would it make sense for them to slash prices to $1.99? Or are there other costs they now have that just wouldn't make the math work at a lower price no matter what quantity they sell? I'm glad to see the channel continuing. And by the way, I'm launching Samson Tuesday, 6/4, as well as rare videos where I'm actually doing videos. I've got videos already uploaded and stored through October, which is pretty awesome. So what I'm doing now is every now and then I get the health or ability or strength to do a video. And so I'll do a video and then throw it in, just kind of move things around a little bit. So I will try and flag this video, hopefully, so the campaign is not completely over by the time it comes out. So, but if that has happened, I apologize. But let's get back. Samson. It is a Kickstarter book. And you can go there, search Samson comic. And he writes, given the current state of the world, I'm both curious and nervous about how it's going to go. Most people have been supportive, but I've got a few people who are definitely not been. Please tell people to check it out if you get the chance. So please do check it out. And look, I say this in other areas. Samson, that's Samson, go check the book out. If you don't want to buy it, if you don't want to support it, if you don't want to give any money or you don't have money to give, go click on the link. First of all, the click alone drives a little bit of strength in that campaign. It just drives a little bit of algorithm that people are visiting the page. That's going to help this guy out. And if you don't want to buy it, pass a link on to others. It's totally okay. Maybe it's not your thing. Maybe it's not your comic. Maybe you don't like the art style. Maybe you don't have money right now. There could be a lot of different reasons. But anything you can do to just get the word out, spread the word, and, because supporting people who are trying to do it on their own is a good thing. So please do give some support there. To the other part of the question, look, if Marvel tripled their sales, they absolutely could lower their price all the way down to $1.99. Probably not, but they could get to $2.50, $2.99 quite easily. The challenge is that if you've ever gone into Target or Walmart, you go kind of to the back of the store. It's usually by the video games. You got a little shelf there of collectible toys. And they're basically kind of short run toys, and they're like action figures based off of the Goonies or who knows, right? They're characters. They're toys that are more niche, and they cost a lot. A lot of those boxes are like $18, $25, and it's because a lot of them are small run, short run things. It's appealing not to a mass audience but to a niche audience, and that's why they're priced that way. They know that they don't have a lot of mass market appeal, so chances are a lot of them are going to sit on the shelves. And so in order to get any kind of profit, they hike the margin up as high as they can. That's why they're expensive. Well, comic books are by and large in the same place. They're sold in boutique shops and only those shops. They're working to kind of get, squeeze in a margin. If you had a lot more distribution, if you had a lot more places it could go, you would sell a lot more copies. You could bring the price down. And absolutely, it's not just sell it more places, because chances are you'd have to offer returnability. So a lot of those comic books are going to come back, and that's going to cut into the cost as well. So it's going to take time to work the industry into a better place. But you need to start the clock. Get comics more places. Get the comic price down. If you're Marvel or DC, and now I'll say this from a completely predatory perspective. If you're Marvel or DC, and your goal is to dominate the industry, convince your corporate overlords there to make sure you're funded. They'll certainly, Marvel will. I mean, Disney is not paying close attention to these books. I know there's people at Marvel who will disagree with that because it's their job to pretend that's the case. But you don't have the same kind of scrutiny as, say, Boom or Dynamite, where you need to pay the bills or people don't get paid. Or it's incredibly hand to mouth in some cases. So you if you want to be really dicks about it, use your connections, certainly with Disney and other places, to increase your distribution. Get your comics to other locations. Simultaneously, drop the cost by at least $1, hopefully $2, and basically take your margin down to like 5%. You're going to lose money on comics for five years. But, for Disney, you classify that as marketing and a write-off. I mean, you should do that. The effect would be that you'd screw the entire industry. I mean, this wouldn't be healthy for everybody else. You would make the comics shops suffer because now there's less margin for them. You would absolutely fuck all the independents because they do not have the margin or the headroom or anything else to sell their comics for $2.50, for example. You would weirdly firebomb the industry. But in doing so, you would be the only game in town. If you and DC both colluded and went on it together, you would screw everyone over. It would be a form. It wouldn't be exactly price fixing, but man, it would be destructive. But you would survive. And the odds of somebody, putting some kind of antitrust lawsuit against you are extremely low. Number one, the people who would be bringing that case have no money. So that's the first problem. And second, the industry itself is too small for the government or people to really give a shit about it. So, I mean, if you want to be complete assholes, figure out your distribution, slash your prices, and then just torch everyone else in the process. It would be a hell of a thing to do, but you could do it. Anyway, that's enough evil for today. I think prices of comics are definitely a problem. It definitely has gone over inflation. And until that gets solved, we're going to be stuck being the collection of misfit toys in the back of Target. If you've never seen this, by the way, go in there. Go to your Target. Are people still boycotting Target? I don't know. Can't keep up with this shit. But go into your Target, go into your Walmart, head to the back of the store behind the video games, and just look for the weird shelf of Funko Pops and weird action figures for movies that you haven't thought about for years, and toy models, and there's some manga, crap stuffed in there, and maybe a Gundam or two. Like look at this area, and it is that is the best representation of comics that we've got right now, and potentially a dark and dismal future. So anyway, on that happy note, thanks for listening.